So I built my dream bike, but I messed up 3 things pretty bad, and I have to fix them all before I can take this bike out on its very first ride. Here's what went wrong. The brakes. These are the newest TRP Evo Pro brakes. I was super excited to get these things mounted up on the bike. These are some of the newest brakes on the market, so I was really excited to see how these things performed. And with that black and gold color on there that matched great with that Kashima, I knew these were just gonna look amazing and really have that kind of dream bike vibe. The installation went pretty smooth, but then I decided to do a lever bleed just to make sure everything was set up right. And that's when I realized my very first up. For any of you guys that have kids in the room, this video contains quite a bit of bleeped out cuss words. I usually try and avoid using those and keep my videos like family friendly, but sometimes it's just the best way to describe what you're going through. So TRP sends you this little piece right here to do a lever bleed. The brakes came pre-bled, but it's good, or they recommend just to do a little lever bleed on there to make sure you get any little air bubbles out of the system. So starting on the rear brake side, everything went smooth. I removed the bleed port screw. I screwed this little piece in there with a bit of hydraulic fluid in it, pulled the top off. Oops, dropped a little bit of fluid on there. Pulled that top off and went ahead and started squeezing that lever, got those additional air bubbles out of there, and everything was going good, right according to plan. But then I moved over onto the left hand or front brake side for us Americans, the way we ride. So I went over to this left hand side, did the same thing, removed the bleed port screw, screwed this little piece in there, went to start doing the little lever bleed on the brakes, and brake fluid was just leaking out of the hydraulic hose where it connects right in here into this little, this bolt right here. What's the name of that bolt? The compression nut. Yeah, that's what it's called, the compression nut. This little compression nut right here. So the fluid was just leaking out of there as I squeezed that. And I was like, damn, what the heck is wrong? I must have done something wrong when I installed these things. So I went ahead, I removed that compression nut, and sure enough, inside, the little olive in there that's supposed to, be pushed straight in to really lock off that seal, that olive was just completely smashed in there. I guess I must have gotten busy. Either I was like rushing, screwing that compression nut in, or maybe I was just too busy trying to film and make the video at the same time and I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I had that thing smashed in there, so of course it wasn't gonna get a seal. That little olive was actually a pain to take back out. I had to grab a set of pliers, like get a hold of it and kind of screw the compression nut off of there. Now, luckily for me, TRP sends an extra little bag of goodies, so they had an extra little olive. I was able to get that olive on there, throw it back in, put the brake together, complete the lever bleed, and now I think these brakes are ready to roll. But there's still 2 more things I had to fix on this bike, which leads me to up number 2. The cranks, or more like the crank spacing. You see, on this bike for the drivetrain, I'm running the Garbaruk Enduro cranks with the Garbaruk oval chainring and a SRAM dub bottom bracket. Now, I wasn't quite sure what spacers I should put on there because you have to space your cranks out so you get the correct chain line on your bike. I initially went with SRAM's recommendation, which was no spacers on the non-drive side and 1 thicker spacer on the drive side. But I could tell by looking at it that the cranks were just way too far out. You could look at that chain ring and see that the chain ring was like almost lined up with the smallest cog. And from everything I could find on, the chain line and getting it spaced right, is it should be somewhere near the middle. So I had a friend come over and help me who had a little bit more experience than me. We kind of had to do like trial and error, and basically just like knowing that that was too wide or was too far out, had to just, take the cranks apart, put in a smaller spacer, try it again. Take the cranks apart, put in even less spacers, try it again, and I think we got it dialed in just about right. That chain line is looking much better now, but I don't know. Have you guys ever installed cranks yourself? If so, how did you know how many spacers to add? While you're answering that, it's time to move on to up number 3. Derailleur adjustment. Derailleur. And this one, you guys, it's actually embarrassing. Like, have you ever had an issue when you're installing something on a bike and you look right over the obvious answer and you end up chasing, you know, a problem down the rabbit hole, and then when you finally get someone else to take a look at it, you realized the answer is just so damn simple? That's pretty much what happened here. So for the shifting, I'm using, you know, the newest Wheeltop EDS 2.0. If you guys haven't seen the video to that, I'll throw a link up top right here. And with that, that's a wireless upgrade kit. So wireless derailleur, wireless shifter. And with that, I'm running the Garbaroote cassette to match with that orange, you know, 12-speed cassette. And it's on a microspline free hub. So I got the Shimano XT chain on there, which this thing should shift great, but you got to get it set up right first. I followed the Shimano recommendation for sizing a 12-speed chain, but something just wasn't right. The chain was way too loose. So I tried shortening the chain, but then the chain was like way too tight when it got up into that highest gear. In fact, it wouldn't even get into the 12th gear, or I guess is that gear 1 or is that gear 12? The first gear, that highest cog, it wouldn't get into that biggest cog at all. So I was thinking like, damn, the chain was too long, but I shortened it. Did I cut it too short? Is that why it's not like shifting into that highest gear? And then I was looking at the derailleur cage, and I have one of these other, the Wheeltop EDS 1.0, and the derailleur cage almost looked longer on the 1.0. It was definitely a different derailleur cage for sure, and I thought, did they accidentally send me the wrong derailleur cage? Because Wheeltop does have multiple different lengths for this, so you can run it, you know, on an 11-speed drivetrain. And I just was thinking, maybe there's a chance they sent me the wrong one. So like an idiot, you know, chasing that rabbit down the hole, I switched out the derailleur cage. I tried the other one. It still wasn't shifting right. I contacted EDS, or contacted Wheeltop, I'm sorry, and they let me know, no, we sent you the right derailleur cage. So there's only one thing left to do at this point. It's like, bring it to the pro mechanic at the bike shop. And when I got down to that bike shop, the pro mechanic there named Zach was like, bro, did you do the initial setup on this thing? Idiot. I actually tried adjusting the limit screws, but the Wheeltop EDS is set up a little bit different than most standard derailleurs. The high limit set screw is right there, you know, in the spot you would find it on most other derailleurs, but the low limit set screw is actually behind this cover right here. And then you use this button right here on the back of the shifter. You hold that button for 5 seconds. You see that light turn green, and that's how it gets into its micro shift mode. You can also go on the app, and in this app, it'll allow you to actually tune each individual gear on there to really fine tune the shifting on that cassette. And these are all things I should have done myself, but just kind of overlooked all those steps. In just the amount of time it took for me to sit there and realize what an idiot I was, Zach had already worked through that entire setup process. You know, probably took him like 5 minutes to get this thing completely tuned, and sure enough, the chain was shifting right up into that highest cog. So did I feel like an idiot? Yes, absolutely. But the important thing now is that the bike is set up, it's all ready to shred. So in my very next video, I'm finally gonna take this thing out, hit the trails, let you guys know if building a dream bike was actually worth it. Now's a good time to like, subscribe, and let me know. Do you guys appreciate more just like straight, honest, open videos like this where I just let you know all the things that I f***ed up? I think a lot of things, you know, or a lot of the other like YouTubers that I've seen in the past, I feel like they hide their mistakes. And so I just want to do something different. Just be honest with you guys. Like, I'm not a pro mechanic. I'm not a pro rider. I'm just an average dude next door who likes to upgrade his bikes, built his dream bike for the very first time, ran into a couple new problems, you know, but at the end of the day, these videos are all about helping you maybe not make the same mistakes. So let me know if you guys appreciate it. See you on the next one.